Viewers, at precisely 12:29 minutes and 09 seconds, life was breathed into the idol of Ram Lalla. In the next life-affirming 40 seconds, the priest turned the clock back on 500 years of injustice. You heard the Prime Minister talking about that. Ram Lalla is at last out of the tent where he was consigned to ignominy, a life of ignominy, by the furies unleashed by the unsparing sword arm of first Islamic and then Western British colonial exceptionalism. Listen it.
हमारे राम लला अब टेंट में नहीं रहेंगे। हमारे राम लला अब इस दिव्य मंदिर में रहेंगे। ये क्षण अलौकिक है, ये पल पवित्रतम है। 22 जनवरी 2024 ये कैलेंडर पर लिखी एक तारीख नहीं, ये एक नए काल चक्र का उद्गम है।
Viewers, as you know, Prime Minister Modi performed the Pran Pratishtha rituals as lead Yajman. As the ceremony was ending, he was seen flat on the ground in Shashtang Pranam before his object of adoration. In this posture, he appeared to be submitting himself to the work of promoting Lord Ram's Dharma. You will see those pictures there of the Prime Minister doing the Shashtang Pranam. And then, viewers, he extolled the virtues of Lord Ram. Listen in.
राम भारत का विचार है, राम भारत का विधान है, राम भारत की चेतना है, राम भारत का चिंतन है, राम भारत की प्रतिष्ठा है, राम भारत का प्रताप है, राम प्रवाह है, राम प्रभाव है, राम नेति भी है, राम नीति भी है, राम नित्यता भी है, राम निरंतरता भी है, राम विभु है, विशद है, राम व्यापक है, विश्व है, विश्वात्मा है।
Once a graveyard of impossible dreams, Ayodhya is today heaving with possibilities. It aspires to be the miracle laboratory offering the formula to catalyze the civilizational continuum of Bharat and the atomized progressivism of India. If the experiment succeeds, viewers, and there's no reason why it shouldn't, Ayodhya will be that rare idyll on earth, thus far only ever imagined in the great epic scripted as a homage to Ram's Maryada. But the rise of Ayodhya as the gateway to Indic way has left some Indians uneasy, especially those on the left of the ideological spectrum. They see the carefully choreographed liturgical iconography of the Pran Pratishtha as a spectacle that reinforces that not only has the state ceased, they say, to be secular, but even Hinduism has ceased to be a religion. Many, like the Congress leadership, even boycotted the event, viewers. Several other political parties on the opposition side have absented themselves, preferring to take out parallel marches or organize prayer sabhas. The Prime Minister, perhaps aware of the criticism, chose to address his critics in a very small part of his all-embracing speech.
वो भी एक समय था जब कुछ लोग कहते थे कि राम मंदिर बना तो आग लग जाएगी। मैं आज उन लोगों से आह्वान करूंगा, आइए आप महसूस कीजिए, अपनी सोच पर पुनर्विचार कीजिए। राम आग नहीं है, राम ऊर्जा है। राम विवाद नहीं, राम समाधान है। राम सिर्फ हमारे नहीं है, राम तो सबके हैं। राम वर्तमान नहीं, सिर्फ वर्तमान ही नहीं, राम अनंत काल है.
In fact, when the Prime Minister talks about Ram being Urja, not Aag, viewers, he has decided to walk the talk in honor of Lord Ram, and his first decision, as he has tweeted after returning from Ayodhya, is that his government will launch the Pradhan Mantri Surya Uday Yojana with the target of installing rooftop solar panels on 1 crore houses. Viewers, it is also important to note, like the reclamation and reconstruction of the Somnath temple in 1951 didn't jolt the secular credentials of India, neither did it unleash the furies of sectarian violence. In the same manner, the Ram temple today, its reconstruction will not also do so. So why do the doubts persist, viewers? What do we make of all of this? Let's speak with Mr. S. Gurumurthy. He is the editor of the iconic Tughlaq. He is an Indic ideologue, and we are very, very privileged to have him with us this evening to talk about this momentous occasion. Mr. Gurumurthy, the Prime Minister has said the Ram temple's rise heralds the moment that the decolonization of Indian minds has begun. Now, can you explain what this means to our viewers, this pivot to Bharat? What does it mean?
See, decolonization was an effort which was started by the freedom movement of India. The freedom movement was rooted in certain values, which was articulated by different patriotic nationalist leaders. Foremost among them have been Tilak and Mahatma Gandhi. I would put it as two persons who had disagreements, but they had no fundamental disagreements. They had political disagreements. So both of them agreed on the character of India, the people of India, the purpose of India, the very goal of India in the Committee of Nations. On that, there was no difference between them. Mahatma Gandhi said, Ramarajya is Swarajya. You know, it is a very profound statement. He said, if Ramarajya is not the purpose of Swarajya, he felt it would be only a change of government. He said replacing the foreign rule by an indigenous rule is not freedom. So he focused on Ramarajya and he focused on Rama. You know, he was a person who understood the purpose of India, the purpose of Bharat and the soul of Bharat. That is why he zeroed in on Rama as his idol, and he said Rama is not divisive, but he is a unifier. In fact, when many people said, when he spoke about Rama, that the Muslims would not accept it, he said no. Rama is beyond all divisions, and he represents the highest values of human race. And so he held on to Rama. And he not only held on to Rama, he died with the name Rama on his lips. In this, there were explicit Congress symbolism, like Ramarajya, and then Vande Mataram, Bharat Mata Ki Jai. You know, these were all emotive ideas which connected the ordinary Indian to the idea of freedom, to Bharat. This is what was driving the freedom movement till at least 1937-38. And when Jinnah wanted Pakistan, as separate from the rest of India, which he called was Hindu. The idea was to run away from anything that could be called Hindu. Because if you talked about something which could be regarded as Hindu, you would be justifying partition. And so, except Mahatma Gandhi, almost the other leaders, particularly Jawaharlal Nehru, dropped the very idea of Hindu. Even though in the discovery of India, he endorsed Swami Vivekananda's concept of Hindu nationalism itself
Yes.
as something which is not against anyone. So the demand for partition denationalized the Congress leadership mind. The Ramajanma Bhoomi restored all this. The Ramajanma Bhoomi movement restored Rama, Ramarajya, Vande Mataram, Bharat Mata Ki Jai. All this came back into Indian polity because of Ramajanma Bhoomi movement. There was suspended nationalism for almost 50 years in India after Jinnah raised the revolt of partition. So, the idea of what we call as India, which very much drove the freedom movement, got suspended for 5-6 decades, and it was restored by the Ramajanma Bhoomi movement. Otherwise, even Vande Mataram was regarded as something unacceptable.
I was coming to that, sir. Yes.
Vande Mataram was unacceptable. The idea of Ramarajya was, of course, regarded as almost communal in the post-independence period. The Ramajanma Bhoomi acted as a corrective to this distortion in national polity.
Mr. Gurumurthy, you've seen that movement very close. You participated in that movement, and in the last interview you referred to how this was an emotional moment for you. It's touching you in your heart. Now, some regretfully are saying, especially on the left, and I don't know if you've been reading the editorials this morning, very predictably, that what was consecrated today was Hinduism as a political religion. Should this worry us?
You see, it is only because Hinduism is regarded as a religion. Hinduism was a parliament of religions. There are people who believe in idol worship. There are people who do not believe in idol worship. The Arya Samajis who do not believe in idol worship are also Hindus. And in the Hindu darshanas, out of the 6 darshanas, Shat darshanas, 3 of them do not believe in Ishvara. They believe only in Atman. Hinduism is in eternal search of truth according to each person's understanding of truth, though the reality is ultimate. I don't think it is in a sense a defined religion like Abrahamic religions are, which have a master, which have a book, which has a way, and which says any other way is unacceptable. That is why thousands of years India lived in peace. And if you look at Rammel's site, the site which he built over 33 years, Power Kills, till the 13th century, there was no killing in India. Only an instance of war he mentions was Ashoka's Kalinga War. Why there was no killing in India? When the whole world was killing each other in the name of whether your God is correct or my God is correct. This is because we never defined religion in terms of a specific God, though we had millions of gods. So, misunderstanding Hinduism as a religion is the first wrong thing secular India did, which even Mahatma Gandhi never accepted it. Jawaharlal Nehru in 1935, as I told you, in the Glimpses of World History, if I remember right, at page 702, he accepted Swami Vivekananda's concept of Hindu nationalism. as something which is not against anybody. Because the Hindu is not in contradistinction to somebody. The Hindu is all inclusive. It accepted idol worshippers, it accepted people who do not believe in idol worship. It accepted people who believe in karma kanda, and it also accepted people who may not have believed in karma kanda. That is why even for Buddhists, even for Jains, the idea of Rama was important. Even for them, they had their own versions of Ramayana.
Even in the Guru Granth Sahib, Ram's
Yes.
name is taken with reverence.
2,400 times Ram's name is mentioned. Krishna's name is mentioned 8,000 times in Granth Sahib. And so, in the Indic religions, we looked at and redefined and re-evaluated Rama in our own way. The way Kambaramayanam looks at Ramayana is a little different from how Valmiki Ramayana looks at. So we had our own perceptions about what Hinduism is. So my objection to comparing Hinduism with Abrahamic religions and saying that Hinduism is an exclusive concept
It's an ism.
is a complete
Yes.
it is a complete misunderstanding and misrepresentation of Hinduism, into which the Indian politics got locked up. Indian secularism got perverted into, and that is the problem which Ram Janmabhoomi movement handled. I was very much part of the Ram Janmabhoomi movement. You know, when this movement started, the hordes of political parties were set against this movement. And all that the Hindus wanted was to reclaim the place which BB Lal committee, of which KK Muhammad, a Muslim archaeologist, was a part, found the remnants of temple under the mosque. It could have been easily given. It is the leftists who prevented this from happening in 1990, according to KK Muhammad. So the destiny will, the true Rama, the distortions in Indian politics will have to be removed. Otherwise, I don't know why the political system should oppose the construction of Ram temple when it accepted the construction of Somnath temple.
Exactly.
When the Congress itself came forward to do it by a cabinet resolution. So it is only to correct the distortions in Indian polity that Ram Janmabhoomi movement had to evolve. I am a believer in destiny. India has a timeless destiny. It has a destiny to guide the world. We always believed in it. Swami Vivekananda said it. Our Vedas and Upanishads say it.
Yeah.
And Vedas, which are considered to be mere poems, have been found by great scientists like Schrodinger and others as revealing the truth which science cannot reveal. So we believe in the eternal purpose of India. And Ram Janmabhoomi corrected the distortions and brought India in line with its purpose. The political India was in conflict with the spiritual India. So the alignment between the spiritual India and the political India took place through the Ram Janmabhoomi movement. That is why these guys who questioned the existence of Rama said Rama was fake, the Ram Janmabhoomi is fake, there was no temple. All these people have been confounded by Rama himself. The spirit of Rama overtook the country. You know, we could not believe when we were participating in the movement, the kind of spirit, and no one was against anyone. Imagine a lady in Jharkhand observing silence for 30 years till Ram temple is built. She has no political party. She is not concerned with who rules the country. This is Rama. And you opposed Rama and made him a communal symbol. I mean, it's the greatest distortion that the Indian politics could have done. And the greatest and the most powerful answer Ram himself gave was the emergence of Rama through the most peaceful means, which society would accept for would wait for 30 years
Yes. And
for
go
the
through the
Supreme Court
courts.
to pronounce a judgment,
Yes.
and a converged judgment, and the land procured by the Congress for being given to whosoever wins the case. If Rama wins, it will go to Rama. If Babar wins, it will go to Babar, Babri Masjid. And so the secular polity could never object to the way the Hindus conducted themselves. There could have been a revolution. If there were an
Yeah.
equivalent of Islamic forces in Hinduism, there could have been a bloodbath.
Exactly.
But the
But,
Hindus waited.
and that is because of their internal reserve of tolerance, which is brought on by Sanatan Dharma, which is a
It
universal.
is more than tolerance. Swami
Yes.
Vivekananda said, we just don't tolerate others.
Exactly.
We accept others.
Accept
Even though they may not accept us, we accept them. You know, this concept is unknown outside India.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mr. Gurumurthy, thank you. I have to cut to those new pictures that have come in of the Prime Minister. He's lighting the Deep
Please, I would
As
also
he-
like to see it.
as he wants to celebrate the Deep Utsav. There you can see, viewers, that is the Deep Utsav. There is the Prime Minister. And if you're all watching this broadcast at home, the Prime Minister, remember, had put out an appeal to all of you to also join him in this celebration, welcoming Lord Ram back from his 500-year exile, and light a deep in his honor. So you're free to go ahead and do so. Follow in the Prime Minister's footsteps there. There he is. You can see a number of the deeps in his own home. I think this is visuals from Lok Kalyan Marg, 7 LKM. That's where he is back after the morning's Pran Pratishtha got over. The Prime Minister returned at around 4 o'clock to Delhi, and since then, viewers, he has been preparing to light those deeps. So I leave you with those pictures. I thank you, Mr. Gurumurthy, for speaking to us. It's been a revelation, as always, speaking to you on this broadcast, and wonderful seeing you again, and thank you for sharing your insight. I hope our viewers take away something constructive from those beautiful words by Mr. Gurumurthy, putting into context really this entire event. Now, viewers, we are also going to go across to Mr. Ram Madhav. He also needs no introduction. He is the National Executive Member of the RSS. He has also been, of course, a former General Secretary of the Bharatiya Janata Party, a National General Secretary of the Bharatiya Janata Party. He also leads the India Foundation. We also have with us Dr. Frawley, Vedic scholar and author and a Padma Bhushan in his own right. Both of us will now put into perspective the day's events and this monumental new chapter in India's civilizational history as it opens. So, Mr. Ram Mandar, let me begin with you first. Unfortunately, I want to begin by invoking a slightly negative sentiment, by suggesting that, or drawing your attention to the fact that we are so hopelessly divided in the name of Ram today. Ram is a great unifying figure. Unfortunately, political parties have kept away from this moment, saying that it's a BJP event to such an extent that even the president was not present. They say that the Prime Minister's participation confirms that the state isn't secular anymore. How do you respond to this? Because a large number of people have been reading the papers this morning. You might even be aware of the editorials that have appeared, which seem to suggest this.
Firstly, before I proceed to answer your question, Rahul, Prime Minister came back at 4 o'clock, and before undertaking this Deepotsav ritual, he actually attended an official program of providing rooftop solar
Yes.
facilities to 10 million households in the country. I mean, just to give you an idea about how busy or how involved in governance Prime Minister has been, always and all the time. And that reflected in his speech also today. He emphasized on how to build a developed Bharat, Vikasit Bharat. Now, this whole controversy, so-called political controversy, to millions and millions of our countrymen today is completely something ignorable. Nobody really is taking it seriously anymore. You are right. Some time back, probably people were really talking about these things, whether India should be a secular country where you reject Ram also, reject everybody also. But at least today, after seeing this grand spectacle, after that, grand visuals that people witnessed and listened to the leaders, the country has become Rammamay. I'm sure no sensible person will any longer raise those issues. First of all, this debate is not new. You know very well. There was a reference to Somnath. This debate had its origins in that incident itself. There itself, there was a difference of opinion within Congress. Nehru had championed a particular view of secularism, but Patel was opposed to it. Of course, Rajendra Babu defied Nehru's diktat and then attended the ceremony. They were not unsecular or anti-secular. In our country, we decided that secularism here meant respecting religions. But Nehru in the parliament and subsequently, while the preamble of our constitution was in the making, he tells very clearly that we should go slow on this word. He talks about secularism and says we should go slow on this word. And the reason he gives was very interesting. Nehru tells his colleagues that, look, this word has a potent meaning in a country which is very religious, people very religious, society which is very religious. You can't simply declare that state would be completely religious. This was, sensible Nehru at some point, but subsequently he championed it, he opposed Rajendra Babu. But the fact remains that India is a country which has, there was a lot of, references to Vivekananda. Vivekananda described our country as Dharma Prana Bharata. The soul of this nation is Dharma. And Ram represents that Dharma, that value system. That is where Ram cannot be confined to any sectoral identity and then held as a symbol of communalism or anti-secularism. In any case, that debate has lost its relevance. Nobody today takes it seriously. Nobody in Congress party today takes it seriously. All of them now are saying that we didn't go because it has become a BJP RSS show, but we will go tomorrow. Whenever chance comes, we will be there. So I think now they realize that, we are into a different kind of, you see, this is the rebirth of Bharat. The civilizational soul of Bharat is reasserting itself. It should have happened in 1947. Gandhiji wanted it. Patel wanted it. Rajendra Babu wanted it. Only one person didn't want it. It was Nehru. Unfortunately, Gandhi died. Patel passed away in 1950. So field was open to people who believed in European ideas. They pushed those ideas down the throat of this nation. This should have happened then, but nevertheless it is happening after 75 years. India, Bharat is reasserting its civilizational soul. Just allow me to add one more sentence.
Please.
In the long history of the world, no nation which was sought to be crushed by its adversaries, its enemies, its occupying forces, could not come back to its own self. They perished in history. But here is a civilizational nation which fought back hundreds of years for centuries and returned to its glory today, standing up tall once again. Recall what Muhammad Iqbal wrote in Sare Jahan Se Acha, Kuch baat hai ki hasti mitti nahi hamari. Yunan, Mishra, Roma, sab mit gaye jahan pe. Yunan perished. Mishra perished. The countries like Iran, Egypt that exist today, they are not the real Egypt, Iran of 2 millennia old. They are totally a different kind of entity today. But here is a civilization which refuses to be crushed, refuses to perish, bounces back every time. We are witnessing that bouncing back of the reassertion of that great national soul. This whole debate about secularism, etc., is totally irrelevant today. We are a dharmic nation. We should have declared it in 1947. No harm.
No
Do you
harm
know?
because dharma is not religion.
Israel declared itself as a
Yes.
Jewish nation.
Yes,
In
but
our neighborhood, Sri Lanka calls it a Buddhist nation. Indonesia calls there is only one God. We all have to be obedient to that God. What are we talking? We are a nation which has such great religion, great dharma, great value system, great culture. We are shy of it.
yes, we can be
We should wear it on our sleeves.
we can be panth nirpeksh, but how can we ever be dharm nirpeksh? Dharma is only a code of ethics. How can a nation not subscribe to a code of ethics? And if it doesn't, what does that make that nation? Think about that, viewers.
Rahul in our parliament, just behind the podium of speaker,
Yes,
there is Ashok Chakra.
yes,
Underneath Ashok Chakra, it is written Dharma Chakra Pravartanaya. Those
Exactly.
542 people sitting in the
Yeah.
parliament are supposed to be working for Dharma Chakra Pravartana. And what is the Dharma Nirpekshta then?
exactly.
That's why I'm saying, when one minister was asked by Pilu Modi in 1950s,
Yes.
what is this? You are talking about Dharma Nirpekshta, it is written as Dharma Chakra Pravartanaya. The
Exactly.
minister said, why do you ask such difficult questions? I never read that statement on the
That's
podium.
because the Marxists in this country deliberately conflated dharma with religion. Our Hindu Sanatan Dharma was deliberately conflated to mean religion, and therefore, viewers, we have had this soup that we've landed in. I will take up the thread, Mr. Ram Madhur, with you on how Modi's Bharat differs from Nehru's India, but I want to draw in Dr. Frawley. Dr. Frawley, how does the Indic model differ from the Western, Islamic and cynic models that appear to be competing among themselves to transform the world into a mirror image of themselves? So how does the Indic model stand apart?
Well, first of all, the Indic model is not an exclusive belief system. You're only saved if you're with us, you're damned if you don't. This exclusive religious view is the ultimate, actually, form of apartheid or even caste, because it bans you or it saves you for all eternity. It's not just a social advantage, but it also becomes a social advantage, and it divides the society into a ruling class of one belief, and then the others are going to be cast down. So the dharmic idea of religion, and even a lot of the native, indigenous, or what they call the pagan traditions, were pluralistic. You worship the divine in whatever way you want, one God, many gods, but you don't impose that upon others, and you share a common way of life, society, and even politics. And I want to say one point. There was nowhere, no time in the Indian independence movement up to 1947 that there was a campaign for a secular India. Nobody was saying that. It was for a dharmic India, the India that is Bharat. And Dharma is not just ethics or religion, it is right living on all levels. The laws of nature are laws of Dharma. Science is exploring the laws of Dharma. Psychology has to understand the Dharma of the mind. Ayurveda is the Dharma of healing for body and mind. It's like saying something like the law of gravity. It's not secular or non-secular. It's not a matter of belief. So Dharma is also a science. And Dharma is adaptable according to circumstances. Dharma is doing what is best possible in a given moment of time. So it is not a dogma. It doesn't say you always do this, you always don't do that, but you adapt to life because life is always changing. Let's take another figure of the independence movement, which is Sri Aurobindo. He says India is Sanatana Dharma. Independence of India is Sanatana Dharma. And I think the independence leaders overall would have said that and agreed upon it. But there was this time change in 1950, as you said. Some passed away, different influences came in. And then the Nehru tried to impose the adharma of communism and socialism and leftism. Gandhi didn't support that. None of the independent movements supported that. And then the people who took power intellectually after India's independence were actually against the philosophy and teachings of the independence leaders. They almost erased the independence leaders from the textbooks, just as they erased the great gurus and the great kings and emperors of India. Their model was the Mughals and the British. They were anglicized with leftist views and Islamic sympathies because that was their common allies. And so they actually turned independence upside down and went back to an intellectual dependence. And then I would just like to make the point that today, that Dharma chakra has changed. That Kala chakra has changed. A new vision is arising. We need a new terminology. Throw out that secular term. It doesn't have any relevance in India. Nobody else uses it in the same way. Secular is not sacred. And the Dharmic traditions are pluralistic. They're not saying you have to follow this belief or another. They teach you experiential spirituality through yoga and meditation so you can experience that truth for yourself and in your own way. Hinduism is the most democratic of all the religions. It certainly has the most deities. It has the concept of Ishta Devata. You're free to worship the divine in whatever form you wish, whichever most resonates with you. You're not subject to a pope, a church, an institution. You have gurus you honor, but it is your own experiential path. That is the vision of India. That is the basis of all the Vedic sciences. And that is India's vision of the future, going beyond the shadows of belief. And Ram Madhav was perfectly correct. What's going on, all this criticism, is just an attempt to hide over their own mistakes. When the light is bright, you sometimes get some long shadows. And a lot of these guys criticizing the government have had very long shadows of their own for a long time. So it's only natural they get bigger. Even, of course, Rahul Gandhi is on another one of his travels, which I would say to live in, we wish well. And remember, dynasties are not secular. Dynasties have never been secular. And Nehru wanted to impose worship of the dynasty. He wanted his family to be the icons of Bharat, not Ram, Krishna, Shiva. And so they institutionalized their family. They put their names on everything, their pictures everywhere. Worshipping a dynasty is anti-secular and anti-spiritual. Yeah. So
okay, let me bring in Mr. Ram Madhav once more. How does Modi's idea of Bharat differ from Nehru's idea of India, and should we fear Modi's idea of Bharat in the future? Because that's what we are told, that we must fear it. We are becoming a Hindu Rashtra.
On the contrary, as Dr. Saleh also mentioned, the entire freedom movement, if you see, the leadership of that movement had a vision about independent India. That vision is what Prime Minister Modi is bringing back or taking forward in our country today. This is the true spirit of our independence movement. You know, Rahul, in 1929, the Congress party had formally passed a resolution stating that whenever we became independent, we would be a Westminster model, European model democracy. Nehru was in the forefront pushing for that, proposal. Nothing wrong about democracy. But when Gandhiji was asked what was his view about it, Gandhiji's reply was, he wrote actually that, I do not know about these great ideas, European ideas that, people talk about in Congress party these days. All that I know is that independent India should be Ram Rajya. This he wrote, remember. And then he explained, by Ram Rajya, I'm not saying that India should become a theocratic state. And Hinduism, as everybody mentioned earlier, is the most inclusive, most Catholic type of religion. Right. So Gandhi said was the weakest shall have as much power as the strongest.
Okay.
You see Prime Minister Modi's governance today. That is what we experience. He came from Ayodhya and decided to give solar energy to 10 million households in this country, empowering the people.
In line with Antodaya.
Antyodaya of this
Deen
In
Dayal
fact,
Upadhyay.
Deen said that, it is about larger social consensus that we have to build. That is democracy. That's what Prime Minister Modi is doing. So, what Prime Minister Modi is doing is to actually put in action the vision of the leaders of our independence movement. Dr. Frawley mentioned about Aurobindo. Aurobindo gave that very significant speech on 15th August 1947 to Tiruchirappalli radio station. Which is published in the form of a book, in a book called India's Rebirth. I mentioned it is our rebirth, nation's rebirth. In that he said that India has a divine destiny to fulfill, and that shall happen. What we are witnessing is that destiny that Aurobindo talked about is coming to fruition. It is being realized by Prime Minister Modi today.
Okay.
So it is different from Nehru's vision, but it is actually in line with the vision of all this top leadership of our independence movement.
Okay, well, viewers, we've had three perspectives now on this show. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much, Dr. Frawley, as well as Mr. Ram Madhav. Let's move this conversation a little forward. I just want to very quickly draw our viewers' attention to the visuals on their screens. This was from earlier today, viewers, and that moment, 12:29:09, 12 hours, 29 minutes and 9 seconds, when the Pran Pratishtha led to the Virajman, Ram Lalla becoming Virajman, viewers, ending his 500-year exile. That is that iconic picture where the Prime Minister is offering to Ram Lalla there, and then extreme right, as the ceremony ends, the Shashtang Pranam. Let's go straight across now to Mr. Pavan Verma and Ashwin Sanghi. Pavan Verma, an author, diplomat, writer of a brilliant book called The Great Hindu Civilization, is also with us. And so is Ashwin Sanghi, needs no introduction, has written a stirring editorial in the newspapers today in the Times of India. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Verma, should we be fearing Modi's idea of Bharat? You have talked about how important it is for India to pivot, perhaps, back to Bharat, its dharmic past. And now when it's here, we are hearing many people putting caveats, expressing doubts, etc.
Thank you, Rahul. I strongly believe that there is an important need to reclaim Indian culture in its entirety. There were 5,000 years or even more in the foundational period of our evolution, which had remarkable achievements and peaks of refinement and tremendous profundity of thought and wisdom, which somehow were pushed to the margins post-independence, and we needed to reclaim them. And that's why, as you know, I've written a book on Adi Shankaracharya, on Tulsidasa's Ramcharitmanas, and of course the Great Hindu Civilization. The essential point is that in reclaiming that culture, certainly the rebuilding of this temple or the building of this temple now marks an important milestone, because in a way it asserts the essential civilizational continuity of India. So I do not agree with those who necessarily fear that vision, but I can understand that if that vision as articulated today, both by Prime Minister Modi and even more by Mr. Mohan Bhagwat today, in his speech, I was listening very carefully.
Yes.
He spoke of Samanvay, inclusion. He spoke of Karuna, compassion. He spoke of Anushasan, being within the purview of law. He says talked about the importance of removing matbhed, divisions in society. He talked about Maryada Purna Acharan, that is behavior which is in accordance with Maryada. And above all, he quoted the line of Ram Rajya from Tulsidas, where he says one line in particular, he emphasized, Sab nar karahi paraspar preeti, that all in Ram Rajya, all the people will have mutual love and respect for each other. Similarly, Prime Minister Modi in his impassioned speech spoke of Udar Charitanam Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. He also stressed Samanvay. He talked of Shanti and he talked of Vinay, that is civilized behavior. Now, if these are the parameters under which there is once again a new pride in the reclamation of Hindu culture and above all giving the rights to Ram Lalla, I have no fear. The fear only arises when in a plural and multi-religious country there is a distortion of the vision of Hinduism. Hinduism is one of the greatest religions in the world, and it is, as it was said by one of your speakers before, it is not exclusionist, it is inclusive by nature. Its conquering eclecticism has enabled it to survive for 8,000 years. So if that vision leads to now a more confident, more assertive, more culturally rooted, more authentic civilization, I would welcome it.
Okay.
But if it causes any kind of accentuation of divides in society, it will be unfortunate, because the person who would be hurt most is Maryada Purushottam Lord Ram, which is Nirgun Brahm in you and in me and in everybody, and is a great unifier.
Okay, just stay on with me, because I want to bring in Ashwin Sanghi. Ashwin Sanghi, yes, of course, Hindu is the Hindu way, Hinduness is eclectic and it is all embracing. But if it constantly, if the plate, if you look at it as a big plate, if it grinds up against the supremacist outlook of other faiths, and we have seen this in the past, we've seen it 1,000 years ago, then there's a problem, isn't it? So Mr. Bhagwat has also appealed to others to sheathe their supremacism. And if that doesn't happen, what do? We'll be back to square one.
Yeah. So,
I mean, what I'm saying is, to take off from what you've written this morning,
yes.
you know, the onus can't only be placed on the Hindu community.
Yeah. So, Rahul, first of all, Jai Shri Ram, and what a wonderful day that we are all living in. I think, honestly speaking, I think we are truly blessed to be living in these times. Our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren are going to look back on our generation and say, oh, he lived at that time. That's the way at least I see it. To my mind, the fear is a reasonable fear that this could become supremacist in some ways, as my respected friend Pavan Vermaji has just mentioned. But I don't honestly see that as a valid reason, because if that was a valid reason, then this would not have gone all the way up to the Supreme Court. If we were truly, as a nation and as a culture and as a civilization, if we were supremacist, then can you visualize that an article of faith would be put to a secular test in a court, in a Supreme Court? So that is what has happened with the Ram Mandir. And I think the words of Prime Minister Modi today, each and every word was very, very profound. I mean, to say Dev se Desh and Ram se Rashtra, that is a very big thing. That, listen, we are not just here about the deity, but the deity will lead us to a more glorious nation. And the fact that we should be looking at the nation, and in some ways he has equated puja with the national development. That the way we do puja, we are working towards national progress. And what do you get after puja? You get prasadam from the Lord. And that is the bounty of economic progress that you will get. You know, it's almost as if he has delivered a sacred oath of sorts. And let's face it, Rahul. We have. I'm sure all of your past speakers have mentioned this about the overall plurality of Sanatan Dharma.
Yes.
The way I like to see it in today's technology-driven time is that Sanatan Dharma isn't an app on your phone. It is the operating system. And multiple apps can reside on that operating system. So you open up your phone and there could be 100 different ways that you decide to use your phone. And that is precisely the way I see Sanatan Dharma. And that is the way that millions of other people also see Sanatan Dharma. Remember one thing, the Prime Minister started out his talk with a reference to the Kal Chakra. And I found that very interesting because one of my books was on the Kal Chakra. And in some ways, he was talking about the fact that at one point of time, Sanatan and Sanatani culture used to be all around the world. And we see that in the footprints of Sanatan all around the world, the global impact of Hinduism. But over the years, that got diminished. Maybe this is a time to be able to come to terms with the fact that all of us may not necessarily have the same religious roots, but we can certainly have a common civilizational root. I have mentioned this before, but today, for example, you have an Indonesia, which is a Muslim majority country, which celebrates the Ramayana Kakavina. So, in other words, the root for religion is Muslim, but the civilizational identity is Hindu or Sanatani. Similarly, you have Philippines, which is fundamentally Catholic, but still has the Maharadya Lavana. So I think this is a time when Bharatiya people need to start thinking about their civilizational roots, and that should be seen as a means towards national progress.
Well, viewers, look, I've brought you 5 voices today, unparalleled in clarity and in research, to put into context what we have seen. We will be speaking with all these individuals one by one over the next few days because the conversation will have only just begun. We've only warmed to the subject today. It's just a small taste of how this conversation will evolve down many strands. And we will be speaking, of course, with them in greater depth over the days, especially over the weekends. Thank you very much, Mr. Verma, Mr. Sanghi, and of course, viewers, for watching. We're going to take a very short break, but when we come back, a first look by our reporters into the Garbh Griha. Stay on with us.